Hello everybody and welcome to Uprising 144K. I'm Hydrogen Man. Okay guys, today I want to show you something interesting because I've been observing and studying this for an extremely long time, because health is your greatest wealth and longevity shows a lot about obviously your health. So let's look at something very interesting that I discovered. What is the healthiest diet in the world? Because everybody and their mother seems to argue about this, and it's kind of crazy how much people are arguing. I just go off data and I connected some interesting dots and I'm going to share them with you right now. So check this out, guys. Let's start with, what is the smartest country in the world? See, nobody ever even thought about doing this type of research, right? Because it turns out that somebody actually has, because I looked this up and they took the IQs of people in the nation and then took an average. Japan is ranked #1, but you can see that it's very close to Taiwan. Singapore is very close, Hong Kong, and China and South Korea. Notice that they're all Asian countries. If you know anything about these countries, they eat a lot of vegetables, guys. But we're going to go with #1. We're going to go with Japan. They consistently rank top in the world. Now, this is for intelligence, though. Do you find it interesting that there is a correlation between intelligence and life expectancy? #1 again. Guys, consistently ranking extremely high. What does this really tell you? Well, let me show you a little bit about what the Japanese diet, what they actually eat, because this is something, I eat a Japanese diet, or at least very similar to a lot of their methods. I modified a little bit because I probably eat more like a monk than the average Japanese citizen. But let's just go through this really briefly. Why is the Japanese, why is Japanese food so good for you, right? So obviously, we know that they have very long life expectancies, but they also have some of the healthiest foods in the world. Now, what's interesting about this, and this has been consistent, one of the things that they noticed is that when immigrants, like when Japanese people, for example, would go to another country like the United States, they noticed, well, you guessed it, guys, instead of getting the same amount of sick as Americans or less, because a lot of people say, oh, it's genetic, the Japanese just have good genes and they live a super long time. No. In the case of Americans of Japanese descent, cancer rates increased. In fact, switching to meat-focused diets saw an increase in incident of heart attacks. Obviously, I've been looking at statistics for a very long time in regards to this. And 10 years, so they lose roughly 10 years. And some of the stuff that I read, I mean, it's very close, but I've seen higher rates than that also. And the interesting thing is how different humans, so I'm very interested in biology as far as how different humans are made differently. And literally biologically, from bone density to testosterone levels, it's all very fascinating and interesting to me. And the Japanese, to me, in some ways, I don't want to say they're fragile, but that's what I think, meaning it's not that they're fragile, they're like more sensitive to contaminants, but I think all humans in the end are, but some I've noticed handle them way better. But the Japanese rates, definitely their death went up a lot when they would not eat the healthy diets that they have. And to me, from all my research, their food is unbelievable. Everything they do is unbelievably healthy because they know how to treat the soil, they know how to treat the crops. They eat, by the way, with the climate and the environment. They also eat with the seasons. They are next level, guys. When it comes to understanding food, if you think that just eating one thing like meat, or just one thing like only vegetables, or one thing like fruit, like a fruitarian, you Fruit Loop, because that's just not smart. I'm sorry, but in my personal opinion, right? I am not giving you any medical advice today or making claims, and I'm not trying to be mean about it. It's just that it doesn't make sense. At some point, it's not that one would not be intelligent, is that you have to think with a deeper wisdom. Now, this was really interesting. During the Edo-period, they created a health manual, and they go into a lot of different just things and this is old, guys. And think of this, mental health. See, the truth is that the Japanese also understand that if you feed the children a certain way, it actually is food for their brain. This is part of, see, if you're smart, you know to make smart food because you know smart food will make you smart. And on it goes. It's a circular thing. The other interesting thing is, this is so fascinating. It says, keep the heart from suffering and keep the spirit free. You know why I love this? Because they actually now have scientific evidence, the Japanese, that basically stress have been shown to create some of the worst poisons and toxins for our body that harm us, more than crazy things that you would ordinarily think, like even chemicals. It's pretty wild. Spirit free from harm, being calm and peaceful. And I love, in Japan, you get a real big sense of peace outside of the city. People, especially the old generation, I actually really like the old generation. They're just, it feels so old school, and I like the simpler times in life. Refrain also from anger and greed. I think that's I see too many people go, honestly, down this road, and it saddens me, even in the world of hydrogen. And, well, it's really sad to me. And restraining melancholy and worry. So it's letting you know that your mental state matters. And then when you get into what you should eat, and see, I totally agree with this. So all meals favor plain, lightly flavored things, because the Japanese like the very light flavors, and if you're very sensitive, your palate. It also says not to eat many rich, fatty foods, and I totally agree with that too, because you have to remember that everything that goes in your mouth goes in your blood. You do not want your blood super thick and fatty. This is exactly why they prescribe way too many statins these days. You need a lot of, actually, you need a lot of enzymes, believe it or not. A lot of fermented foods, a lot of, obviously in your fruits and vegetables, there's a lot of enzymatic activity to help break it down, to keep your blood nice and like thin, so that it can move through your pipes, through your veins, nice and smoothly. Let's see here. It also says, look how smart. Eating until one is full will cause bitter misfortune. By eating sufficient amounts of foods with each of the 5 flavors, one can avoid illness. So they eat, again, they have a certain amount of things. I'll show you some pictures here in a second, just so you know. And then even eating a variety. So they always talk about variety, meats or vegetables. They say variety because, and guess what? The science now shows that too. The Japanese have done studies on the GI system, and they found that in your colon, like for the good microbiome, you want a variety of different things. The more variety in your GI system, which is really good. Obviously, you don't want to be stagnant and all that. You don't want to just sit around and eat Fruit Loops or Twinkies. Okay, and then illness starts from the mouth. Look how smart they are. Illness starts from the mouth. I can tell you guys, I've done so many of these consults before, and most of the people I talk to, most of their problems are self-induced. And it's just, it's because we haven't been trained, right? People don't know. Eating and drinking in moderation. That's another big one. Only until 8/10 full. Now, this has been kind of something that a lot of people are talking about these days. It's kind of gotten out there. But look, the Japanese know about this forever. I've been following that for a long time too. Eat and drink in moderation. Guys, all things in balance, right? Clearly. But I like, and in my protocols, I have certain order in which I eat things or consume things. And they talk a lot about the colors of the foods, depending on the time of the season. And I love this one because this is something I do myself. And I didn't even know that it was in this manual. I just do it because it just feels right in my heart. But feeling gratitude for the food, guys. So for example, there are 5 right here. So when I grab the food, I always think of the person who grew, or actually this one says provided the food. I usually make my own meal, so that's usually I'm the one, I guess. But I think a lot of the people who did the labor, here it is, thoughts for the labor of the people. Because guys, I buy all this produce and all these vegetables, and I know how hard it is to grow food. And I feel extreme gratitude, especially when they do it organically and they go against the grain. Then happiness at being able to eat. One thing, guys, if you go without eating for a long time, like done some fasting, you're going to find you'll have a lot more gratitude when you're finally ready to eat. And I just think that these things are important to have these emotions. Happiness at being able to eat enough. That's another one. You're not starving like other people. And someday we might have to go through that again if you're really paying attention to what's happening in the world. But be grateful. And then thinking about your ancestors, and, it's very interesting. They think about their ancestors a lot, actually. And the Japanese have such amazing, many cultures have amazing stories, but the Japanese are just, look at it's just next level. Here you have, I think those are soba noodles, extremely healthy for you. Here you got seaweed and tofu and miso soup, which is obviously alive, so it's a good probiotic. They have their steamed rice. Notice none of this is fried. It's not deep fried. It's not pan fried. It's very simple. I like, and the soup will heat your stomach. And again, you're eating these foods in certain orders. They know what they're doing. I'm just going to put it that way. They know what they're doing. They're not just slapping a giant steak and say, just eat that, or putting a plate full of fruit and just saying, just eat that. You have to have a balance, guys. And I hope that this is helping, because a lot of people seem to be very confused about diet these days. And everybody's saying something different, and everybody's fighting about it. I don't think there should be any fights. We just look at data. And I think this is important too. Look at this, where they compare the Japanese and American diet. So on this side, they'd have rice, the Japanese, and then the Americans would have bread. And then you can see like their beans versus Japanese beans. Are you freaking kidding? The Japanese beans are going to be way better. They got kombu, because you know they have natto. Everything is just, I've tasted both sides, and I always feel better obviously with these. This is one of the reasons I follow this type of diet. So okay guys, that was about it. I mean, well, let's see here. There's a little more comparison of Japanese, the time period stuff. I didn't think that was that interesting. And then basically a lot of the important points. Diversity. Dude, lots of vegetables, lots of different fruits, nuts, seeds, beans, mushrooms, a lot of fermented foods. I mean, they have so many different things. And then how you prepare them. So you're not deep frying, again, you know, using seed oils, blah, blah, blah. The ingredients, the quality of the ingredients matters, guys. You want your seafood clean. Obviously, I know what they've done to the oceans. You want your vegetables, obviously, without all the pesticides and herbicides. You know, you really, the quality is so important. Japanese, believe me when I tell you, they are all about quality. And you put all these things together, and then proper seasoning. A lot of people don't know, for example, soy sauce. Soy sauce is actually fermented, and it's like a really nice, healthy, natural salt when done in the traditional way. So many beautiful things that you could really learn by doing a little research on Japan. And then the format. So I'll leave you with that, guys. I hope you found it helpful. Give the video a thumbs up. Thank you for watching and supporting the channel. I'll see you guys next time on the next one.